Hi everybody, Mr. Machado here with another video for you to keep learning from home. Today we are going to talk about comprehension. You already know what comprehension is. We had a few videos about comprehension, so I'm pretty sure you're very familiar with that word. Comprehension means the ability to understand what you read. Not only decoding the words and being able to read the words, but also actually understanding what you're reading. And there are a few different strategies that we have been learning to improve our comprehension, to make sure that we can understand the passages and the stories a little easier. We are going to learn a new strategy today. But before we jump right into learning that new strategy, I want to make sure that we can review the strategies that we have already learned. A couple weeks ago, we learned the very first strategy when it comes to reading comprehension, which is making connections. We learned that when I'm reading and I'm making connections between the text that I'm reading and my own life, I'm actually hooking old information and new information together, which makes learning a lot easier. There are a few different ways that I can make connections. I can make connections between the text and my own life, text to self. I can make connections between the text and another text, another story that I read about a similar topic, or I can make a connection between the text and the world around me, any other prior knowledge that I might have. The second strategy that we learned a couple weeks ago was called summarize. It's very important for you to be able to summarize a story or a passage after you read it, because that's a good way for your brain to organize all the new information you just got. So to summarize simply means to tell it again in small words and in your own words. That's the important part. So when you are summarizing a passage, you always have to think about the most important things that you just read, that you just learned. And you can always summarize the passage by retelling that story to your parents, your siblings, or anyone around you. As I mentioned before, today we are going to learn a new strategy. It's not really new because we practice all these strategies in school, but you probably never stop to think about it. Today's strategy is called asking questions. It sounds simple, and it is very, very simple. When you stop and ask questions throughout your reading, when you're reading a book or a passage, you are getting your brain very engaged on whatever you're doing. You are giving all your focus and attention to that activity. Therefore, it's much easier for you to really understand what's happening on the story. There are several different ways that you can ask questions. When you're reading a passage, you can ask questions about the characters, about the setting, about problems, solutions. Any type of questions that pop to your mind can help you understand that passage a little better. Any question that would start with the word why, what, who, when, where, I wonder, all types of questions are helpful when it comes to understand the story a little better. So it's very important for you to remember, when you're reading a passage, when you're reading a story, ask yourself some questions as you're reading and see if you can answer those questions throughout your reading. And if you can't, that's okay. You can figure out later, or maybe you're never going to find out the answer. But the important thing is that your brain was very focused, very engaged on that text, on that passage when you're reading. And that's going to help you answer comprehension questions afterwards. So let's try to practice doing this together. Let's pretend we just all read this story, The Three Little Pigs. It's a very common story. We all know how the story goes. And that's the story I've been using to practice the other strategies as well. So again, the strategy is called asking questions. So as I'm reading, I'm asking myself questions about the story, about the characters, the settings, and maybe about the text itself. So for example, if I'm reading this story, I can ask myself, I wonder why the wolf wanted to blow all the houses. And we might find the answer at the end of the story. Or I can ask myself, I wonder why the pigs chose 3 different materials. Why didn't they all buy the same thing and build their houses with the same materials? It's another question that I might not know the answer, but it gets my brain engaged on the story. I can also ask a question about the text itself. I wonder what the word huff means. I never heard the word before. Anyways, I'm going to keep on reading. You see what I'm doing right there? I'm asking myself questions about the story, and I'm making sure that my brain is extremely focused on the story. So that's going to help me answer any type of comprehension questions in the future. And that's what you are going to do. We are going to be reading a new passage today called Mother's Day. We know that Mother's Day is next week, so I figured it would be a perfect time for us to read this passage and practice using this new strategy. So as always, I'm going to give you the passage. I want you to pause the video and I want you to try to read the passage one time by yourself. It's very important that you are trying to use your decoding strategies and try to figure out how to read all those words by yourself. After you read one time, we are going to read the passage together. So make sure you read one time by yourself and then you can hear Mr. Machado reading the passage. After we read the passage, we are going to talk a little bit about the exit ticket for today. So here's the passage. Make sure you pause the video and read one time by yourself. Great. Now that you read the passage one time by yourself, your brain is already familiar with the story. Now we can read it again. Make sure you're tracking along. You can use your finger or you can just track along with your eyes. Mother's Day. My stepfather and I surprised Mom on Mother's Day. We got up very early in the morning and fixed her breakfast. We planned the surprise the day before. We went to the grocery store and bought food and real flowers to make the breakfast special. We decided to bake waffles and serve them with fresh strawberries and whipped cream. We know Mom likes strawberry waffles because she had them once when we went out for breakfast. We told Mom to sleep in as long as she wanted. We said, when you wake up, just knock on the kitchen door, but don't come into the kitchen. I washed the strawberries and removed the tops. Then I put silverware on a plate, on a tray, and Dad put the flowers in a little vase. Dad made the special coffee Mom loves. Then I helped Dad make the waffles. We used a waffle mix so it would be easier. We had to heat up the waffle iron first. The first waffle didn't turn out too well, so Dad said I could eat it. It tasted excellent, even if it looked funny. The next waffle was perfect. Just when we had the waffles all figured out, Mom knocked on the kitchen door. We put a waffle on a plate and spooned the berries in it. Then I squirted whipped cream over the top. We walked up to the bedroom and tapped on the door. Mom said, "Come in." She said it was the best breakfast she had ever tasted. Great. I chose that passage because, like I said, Mother's Day is coming around and I wanted to give everybody a suggestion or something that you can do to surprise your mom, your stepmom, or anyone that's special to you on this holiday. So let's go back and think a little bit about the strategy we learned today. We were talking about asking questions. Did any questions come to your mind when we were reading the passage? Did you wonder anything? Remember, when I'm asking questions throughout a reading, I'm making sure that my brain is engaged. My brain is really paying attention and focused on whatever the passage is. So this is what we are going to do on our exit ticket. The exit ticket for today, it's going to be a little different. You are going to have one question about our strategy, asking questions, and the other questions are going to be comprehension questions. Questions about the passage to see if you really understood what you just read. So when you go to Google Classroom, you are going to see an assignment called Mother's Day Questions. The first slide is the slide about a strategy. It's the slide about asking questions. The question on the first slide says, write down some questions that popped up in your mind when you were reading the passage. So right here, you are not going to answer any comprehension questions. On this first slide, all you have to do is write down the questions that you had in your mind when we were reading the passage. For example, when I read the passage the first time and I saw that part that was talking about Mom really liking strawberry waffles when they went out to eat once, I was actually wondering, where did they go to eat? Which restaurant did they go? So if you have any other questions that came to your mind, this is the slide you're going to write them. It doesn't matter if you know the answer to the question or if you don't know the answer to the question. Just make sure to write down 1, 2, or 3 questions that you had while you were reading the passage with me. After that first slide, all the other slides are comprehension questions about the passage. So I would just want to make sure that you understood what the story is about and you can answer questions about the story. So that's it for today, my friends. I hope you can really practice using this strategy every day. It's a very, very simple strategy, but it really helps your brain understand passages a lot better. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time with another video. Take care.